Okay, let's get this started. Thank you very much. My name is Bianca Nijhoff. I'm co-chair of Workplace Pride Foundation and very happy to see you all here. Everybody joining us, also the ones online. Thank you for taking time to be with us during this annual meeting today on this very important subject. You probably got the news that the world we live in, it's like positive things, negative things happening also related to LGBTIQ+. LGBTIQ+ at the work floor where we work in. So last week, the US Senate actually passed the legislation protecting same-sex marriage. That's on the positive side, so yes. But in the same week, Russia actually criminalized LGBTIQ+ for all practical purposes. That's the world we live in nowadays. It feels like instead of all going in kind of a similar direction, we're going off in different directions. And this is also the world where the members of Workplace Pride Foundation and our community have to live in and have to work in. And this, I think, is one of the very important reasons why we are, as a community, as foundation, working on this subject. So I'm very happy to see you all here today. To get to know where we are at as a foundation, and I can tell you we really had a very, very successful year, especially when it comes down to the number of members, so the involvement we have. But yeah, thank you very much for being here with us, and thank you very much to Adyen actually for hosting us here today. I'm very, very happy with that. And I would like to invite Ingo Uytehaage, CFO of Adyen, to come on stage and to welcome us and say a few words about Adyen.
Thank you, Bianca. Yeah, welcome all to Adyen. We're very honored to have you here today. What I would like to do is take you a bit through our journey over the past years. I joined Adyen about 12 years ago when we were around 20 people. And from the start, we tried to build a company that is very diverse in its nature. We're currently over 20. Yeah, let's try it again. We're currently over 20 offices or 25 offices globally, more than 3,000 people. And I think how we've gone through this journey is a journey where we try to do the things locally. So a little closer. Oh, now it's better. Yeah. Sorry. So we try to build it bottom up. So make sure that the groups that want to be involved in all kind of initiatives, that they had the freedom to build what they think is best for the company. And I think that is very general how we like to build Adyen. We like to build Adyen in a way where people can take initiative, can do what they think is best. And that's also how we built the different diversity groups in our company. The sound is really terrible, or is it now better? Yeah. So why are those different perspectives so important, and how have we also captured this in our culture? We've captured in our culture through our Adyen formula. The formula are 8 principles, and one of those principles is that we always ask people to take a different perspective if they want to make a decision. So making sure that we keep the speed as a company, we ask people to make decisions on their own, but they can never make a decision without taking a different perspective into it. And that's very key why we want to have a diverse company with people from all kind of different backgrounds. I'm very proud that if you look at where we are right now, that over the past 2-3 years, we have the pride community in our company that has been very successful in basically setting the tone how you can structure things. And that's, of course, one of the most difficult things if you're a company that grows very quickly, how you get from initial ideas to real scale. And I think they have set the tone how you actually can do that. And also other employee resource groups have learned from this, but it's still a journey. So one of the things I think what we also can do better as an organization is learn from the different groups and make sure that we apply the challenges or learn from the challenges on a global scale. What do I mean with that? You see that we're currently 3,000 people that only I think we added over the past 12 months around 1,400 people to the company. That also means that there are a lot of new team leads that are in their early or late 20s, early 30s for the first time in their career, a team lead. So what does it mean to lead a team and be inclusive to your team? What kind of challenges do people face if they work here? And I think that's the thing as leadership that we want to further improve. That's where we very much focus on, to learn from the different employee resource groups, to see what they think are the challenges, and then make sure that the different team leads can apply this to their teams. And that's basically our next challenge in scaling the company. That's a bit of the background. I'm very pleased that you're here today. And I would like to hand it over to Allan.
All right, everyone. Hi. My name is Allan. I've been at Adyen for 3.5 years now, and I am one of our global Pride community representatives. And what does that mean? That I am involved in trying to get a direction of where we're heading with what we call the Pride community, with a couple of incentives with that, with a thought behind it to make sure that in those 25 offices, around 3,000 people, people can be themselves, feel that they belong, and we are creating an inclusive space for people to be in. So I was thinking about how will I sum up this story, because I can talk about it for a whole day, and I love to talk, as you might have already noticed in this 1 minute. But I've tried to compress it into just the journey that we've gone through, because I think the journey is very quintessential for Adyen and the way that Ingo just described our culture. What Ingo already said is that we have a really good foundation that we're very proud of. And these are our 8 core principles, which we call the Adyen formula. And one of them actually was very convenient for us to think, to use, let's say, next to all the others, in how we wanted to build this community. And that is the one: we include different people to sharpen our ideas. So when I joined in 2019, we were with around 900 people in, let's say, 18 offices, and we had a small, not so visible community in the form of a Slack group. I think there were around 20 people in there, and we called that like a safe space where you could be, and also it was a private group, so you could do you there basically. And I felt that we were kind of like assuming that we were doing the right thing with having like a pride party during Pride, and everyone could be themselves, and you could also see that in the office. But it was around 2 years ago where we thought, hey, if there is nothing in place, let's get something in place. So this is basically how it all started, literally in front of the drawing board, with 3 people that just thought like, hey, let's change things up, let's shake things up, and if there is no plan, no strategy, then let's be the first ones who do it. So what did we do? We came up with a mission statement. That's where we started. So we thought, like, let's start and just kick it off with: we are inclusive, safe, and equal community where all members and allies are heard and seen. We all have the power to proactively make a meaningful difference within Adyen and our Pride communities. We are a community without borders. So this is what we thought was a really good idea, which was like 3 people, like, great, right? We're super confident, super excited about it. And we also added 3 pillars to it. So if we wanted to focus a little bit, and this was something that we basically tested with our community, because by then I think we were with around 60 people spread over the world by then. So we went with our mission statements. We organized, I think, in 3 different time zones, different sessions, to get people's input. Like, hey, if we would build a community, what would you like to see? Because we have 6 million ideas, but we're with the 3 of them, right? And we want this to be a community from the community for the community. So let's build this together. And this is basically how our 3 pillars came to life. So be inclusive, comfortable, and accepting, equal. for the pillar safe, visible, and active. Well, again, I can talk about this for a very long time, but at Adyen, we like to do things in a simple way. So that's also why we continue to keep this in a simple way. And we know that we have a long way to go, but I think together with a lot of people, we decided like if we give this a little bit of structure, then we can make this happen all together. So what do? We invited people to become champions and also kind of outline with keeping a lot of flexibility and a lot of freedom what that would mean. So being an advocate for your office or even region, if you wanted to help drive initiatives, and you also help to manage local partnerships and pride community activism. So now, 2 years later, we have a beautiful people of global and regional pride champions that are all representing a region and making it happen that in the last 2 years we had a global educational pride community pride event during the Pride Week, regional but also global, which was broadcasted throughout the whole world with a bunch of workshops. We started to become a little bit more visible because at Adyen we tend to stay away from all the flashiness, which, to my disappointment, we could do a little bit more, but that on the side. But we want to do things intentionally, right? So this is one example of a campaign where we went external with, showing the faces of our people with comments on what things are that we believe in. So we like to see ourselves as we're in the infancy of our journey. There's a lot of things to be done, but I think one thing that we're very proud of is that we get so much support from our board members, as was Ingo already mentioned. I think what's very special is that we don't get like this little pot of money or this bag of money and say like, this is your budget. But Ingo always says like, well, challenge me with how much you need for a really impactful initiative, and then we'll talk about it. And I think that is very beautiful and has brought us a very long way already in the short journey that we have. Yeah, and I want to invite you all to get in touch with Adyen and see how we could potentially learn from each other, collaborate, because we're very open to do so, and we're very proud of our journey so far. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for that, and very inspiring. And let it be an inspiration for the other members of Workplace Pride Foundation. David, can you, as the Executive Director of Workplace Pride Foundation, let me introduce you and talk us through what we have done over the last year.
All right, Bianca, thanks very much. It's a great story, both from Ingo and from Allan. It's so good to also be in a place with our members and to see how they're actually fulfilling their own LGBTIQ plus workplace inclusion. So my name is David Pollard. I'm the Executive Director of Workplace Pride, as Bianca mentioned. I hope I don't go too fast with this. I'll try not to, but there's a couple of house rules. First of all, exits here, there, if you have over there, oh, they're everywhere. There's exits everywhere. Please turn off your cell phones, and you'll see that there's a photographer here. If you don't want your photograph used, please either tell the photographer or let us know, the organizers of Workplace Pride, and we'll make sure that it's not used. So this is what I want to talk about first of all today. This is the contents, a little bit about what the foundation has done in this year, actually zooming in on the pillars, looking at our challenges as well, because it's not always super easy with the type of work that we do, and then our planning for 2023. So for the overview, I always want to show this, of course. Workplace Pride continues, I hope you can all see it, continues to grow considerably in the past 2 years, quite a bit. You'll see Adyen one, again, thank you so much for hosting today. But we have a lot of organizations from many, many different sectors. I don't know if you can see it, but even Walt Disney has just joined most recently, along with so many other interesting organizations. And again, the one thing that they all do have in common is that they're all working for workplaces where LGBTIQ plus people can truly be themselves. Also in the types of environments that Bianca was talking about, sometimes where homosexuality is becoming criminalized yet again, and in others where the sky's the limit. So it's a challenge for sure. Bianca also alluded to the fact that we've grown. We've actually in the past 2 years have added 82% new members. That says a lot, not just about workplace pride, but also about the entire movement of LGBTIQ plus inclusion. The fact that so many employers are looking at this topic as something that's really crucial to the way that they work. I'll be honest, it's been a strain on workplace pride. We've had to reestablish or repivot our resources and look at how we're going to best serve our members as well as continue to serve the community. I think we've done it well, but it just remains a challenge to be very transparent to you. As time has gone on, we have established more clearly the pillars of our organization. So these are them in a nutshell. So relationship management and advice, measurement, which is a global benchmark, a learning and development program, community engagement, events and activities, and our research and knowledge sharing. So that's what I'm going to walk through a little bit today so you have a better idea of what workplace pride actually does. Now, one of the most important, in my opinion, probably the most important pillar of our work is relationship management. These are the people that you know, these are the people that are on the front line of what we do. They're the ones who are interpreting what workplace pride does and also listening to our members and interpreting back to us at workplace pride so that we can change policies, so that we can do more outreach to the community. So you see, our 4 relationship managers are actually here this evening, and I'm very proud to announce this evening that we have a new relationship manager, Robert Corbers. If you can stand up, Robert, right there. Today is Robert's very first day, first couple of hours at the foundation. And I think it's a good sign of the fact, again, how we continue to grow. We need to expand. This bit down here, this is a project called Free to Be Me. I'll speak about this in a little bit more detail later on. But I did want to point out that these are our colleagues who are not based in the Netherlands. We have Levi's in Nairobi, Christine in Manila, Graham in London and Berlin, and then Moses also in Nairobi. So it also, I guess, is a good indicator of how workplace pride is serving our members in many different places around the world as well. And we interpret the change, as I said, and we connect our members Europe and internationally. So at this point, we're going to zoom a little bit more into the individual pillars. So I'm going to ask my colleagues who are responsible for these areas to come up on the stage and tell it in their own words, the pillar that they're responsible for. So the next one is Yuli Kim, Director of Program Development.
Thank you, David. You hear me okay? Great. I'm Yuli. I'm a Director of Program Development. I started my career at Workplace Pride as the Learning and Development Program Manager. So here's a program overview of the Learning and Development Program. And Adyen, one of the first companies that took a module, the world of LGBTIQ+ last year, to educate their employees about why workplace inclusion matters for LGBTIQ+, but also what can allies do to foster more inclusive workplace and culture for your LGBTIQ+ colleagues. And each module has 3 learning goals, and we thought it was critical to connect those goals with the global elements in the global benchmark so that we can holistically help our member organizations to advance LGBTIQ+ inclusion for their employees. All right, some of the highlights. So we have 110 organizations, member organizations, of which unfortunately only 22 companies took their advantage for the free credit of the Learning and Development Program. So that's only 20%. So we need to promote more, perhaps, to encourage you to take the free credit for the Learning Development Program. So if you have any questions about the program, you can always reach me. So I was wondering, why aren't people taking the credit? And we did the survey amongst our member organizations to know that if they are aware of about their free credit, the benefits that they can get for being a member to Workplace Pride. And 37 respondents, of which 40% yes, people said yes, we are aware, but a lot of you haven't really taken a free module. And then I wondered why. So I asked some of the members, And they said, well, we have, existing program that covers DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I asked, well, does it cover LGBTIQ plus inclusion? Like, I don't know, we'll take a look. Well, it's not. Well, also, some of the members said, well, we have thousands of employees and in your module take only up to 50 people. We need scalability. And some other members said, well, I'm in charge of engineering and I'm really not the learning development program manager, so I'm not the right contact. So here are some of the feedback that I received. That I would say, why not? Even if you have an existing program, you can use our learning and development program as a plug-in because we really focus on LGBTIQ plus inclusion, but that doesn't mean that we don't cover other things. For example, in module 3, inclusive language, we also cover race and culture and gender that are all relevant to the intersectionality of the LGBTIQ plus community. I have also done the train the trainers approach so that I can train the HR professionals or learning and development program managers so that they can conduct a session or workshop about LGBTIQ plus inclusion within your organization. The third one was like, well, I'm not the right contact. Then who is the right contact for me? Please let me know. And I can talk to them and understand their need and where we can help to advance LGBTIQ plus inclusion in your organization. So another why not slide is the average. This is a 0.1 to 5-point score of the feedback. So this last year, I've conducted 30 plus modules. So that's about a little over 1,000 people who joined the module. And average score rate was 4.7. And also above 90% were satisfied with the program. And they said they would recommend the module to their colleagues. So out of about 1,000 people, only one person said, no, I do not recommend this. Only one. So maybe this person was having a bad day. I don't know. So why not? Here's some of the comments, feedback that I received from the participants. I really appreciated that we were in a safe space and we could ask questions related to our regions and work environment. And then as you see, you might think, well, the world of LGBTIQ plus sounds too simplistic, but my deck is there to navigate the conversation. The real learning comes from the participants sharing their own stories. And for the past month or two alone, 4 or 5 senior leaders almost sort of came out by saying, well, my child gave me a permission to talk about them and they are queer. And it really hurts me when somebody makes a joke about gay person or lesbians in the office. It hurts me because I worry about my child. And then the participants really understand the impact of insensitive jokes or insensitive remarks that people accidentally or innocently, or they will think innocently, make. It really brings negative impacts, not those from the community alone, but also people who have family members and friends from the community. Okay, so that was it. Again, if you have any questions about the Learning Development Program, please reach me. And I'd like to introduce my colleague, Brian, who's in charge of the global benchmark. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Yothers. I am the leader of the global benchmark. That's why I'm here today. But I also have a couple other roles within the foundation. I am a relationship manager, so I work with some of you here in the room, and I'm happy to do that. And I also focus on some internal optimization within the foundation itself. As David said, we need to grow and scale, and that means we need to look at our processes very carefully. So I'm trying to help that play that role as well. But we're here to talk about the global benchmark. So the global benchmark was launched in 2014. That means that this past year, our benchmark has been helping guide organizations for 9 years in where they can drive their program and set up their internal processes and benefits to better serve the LGBTIQ plus employees within the organization. The goal of the benchmark itself is to guide that decision making. So the output can inform you as the participants within the employee networks, but also inform management in terms of what are the actions that could be taken as well as the why. It helps establish a baseline of where you are. So many organizations begin with a global benchmark and they say, oh, we don't know if we want to do it because we're really just starting our journey. That's a perfect time to begin with the global benchmark. It gives you a baseline. And then as you continue to participate, you can see, oh, we're moving up here. Oh, here we fell back. So it gives you a lot of data points that you can really use to help drive the momentum that you have within your organization. And believe me, we all understand that just because you have support from management at one point in time, it doesn't mean that it will always be there. So the global benchmark is a way to help you have data points to continue to drive the importance of this topic as it evolves. The global benchmark itself is comparing your the survey input that you provide from your organization to leading practices. We have, as we said earlier, we have more than 100 members who have done a lot of work over these past 9 years and even before that. And in filling in the global benchmark, we're able to distill what those leading practices are. And the idea from the global benchmark is it will compare your organization to where those leading organizations are and to give you an action plan on things you can do to try to move in that direction. The last thing that we added actually just this past year, we continue to try to get more and more concrete in terms of the output that we're giving you. So it's the global benchmark and now provides very concrete actions for each of the questions and actually each of the options that you may not have checked. In other words, you haven't yet achieved that. Well, these are the actions that you could take within your organization to be able to move that needle in that place. So as David presented it, global benchmark is our measurement pillar, and we try to make that as simple as possible, as relatable as possible to leading practices, and as actionable as possible. Here's every year, the benchmark is a large process. We acknowledge it's a lot of work for those that participate, but we try to make sure that we're also maximizing the value that you get out of it. We do an individual report for each of the participants, but there's also a summary report. So what you're seeing here is some of the output of the summary report that hopefully you have all already seen. Some of the highlights here, 2022 was our largest participation yet. We had 59 organizations participating, and many of those were large global organizations. So every year we're seeing more and more organizations coming on board and seeing the value of participating, of putting the work in to get this information back. The public sector, so we have a wide range of members. The public sector represented almost a quarter of the participation in the global benchmark this year, and the public sector has at times, and by public sector, I'm talking about governments, academic organizations, NGOs, etc. There are some different dynamics within those organizations. So we're trying to have a global benchmark stay focused, but being able to serve both private sector and public sector organizations. But it is important to see that our public sector population is continuing to grow within the global benchmark as well. And we also see from the chart on the upper right there that the data itself is telling us that continued participation in the global benchmark and the diligence that you take every year pays off. We're seeing the scores in the global benchmark grow significantly for organizations that participated 2 to 4 years of the 9 that we had. That's their scores increased on average by 18%, and those that were more than 5 years by 35%. So you can see that continued participation, at least the data is telling us that it pays off. Again, we know that it's a lot of work, but we know that it's worthwhile as well. And in closing, the benchmark, as I keep repeating, it's a lot of work, we know that, and we are doing a lot of work to look at these 4 items here. We're always trying to make a balance of not making too many changes to the global benchmark so that you can compare your progress from one year to the next. That comparability is really important to provide you with data that you can use within your organization. We want to make sure that it's clear. That we understand that these are global organizations who are using the global benchmark, and that the language needs to be clear and succinct. It's not my strongest point, so I'm getting help from a lot of my colleagues on that. And every year we try to make it clearer and clearer. What are we really asking here? And your input in the reviews that we do is helpful in that perspective as well. there's a complexity element and the international differentiation. What we're saying here at the end is Workplace Pride is one of the unique organizations that looking at LGBTIQ plus workplace inclusion on an international or a global scale. And we want our measurement tool to be able to reflect that. However, if we ask you all of the questions that we ask for all of the countries that you're in, no one could complete the survey itself. So we're trying to find the right balance of adding complexity so that the information you're getting back can help you fine tune. Hey, we're doing great in Europe, but we're not doing so well in Asia. That would be great information for you to be getting back. And we continue to try to balance how can we add questions that you can provide us that information without it being prohibitive in terms of the work, and we can provide value back in terms of reporting and the data we give you. And that's an ongoing process. Every year we look at that, and every year we try to make it better. And that will be the same for this year as well. So that's what I had to say about the global benchmark. Again, if there's any questions, you can always reach out to me. I think there's a Q&A at the end of the session as well, so we can take some of them there if needed. And now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Christine, who is also a relationship manager and leads the communities within Workplace Pride.
Good words, Brian, thank you. Hello, now my name is here and I already guide for almost 2 years the communities within Workplace Pride. And I'm very passionate about that because I love grassroots. I love coming up from the community itself, hear what they want for the future on LGBTIQ plus inclusion. And yeah, now we stand here, and in general, the Workplace Pride communities are initiated and supported by the Workplace Pride Foundation. And it means that if you participate in a community, it provides an opportunity for employees and members to engage, to show leadership, to make a difference, and to collaborate. Thanks to Julia, I also have here a sheet about the survey. Thank you, Julie. And here you see that there's still some work to do on visibility of the communities. But I think this year, in the last part of the year, we had a lot of activities where I want to tell you some more later. So maybe if we do the survey now or in the beginning of next year, the visibility will be bigger. A lot of text. I'm a teacher also, and that's number one. Not too much text on one slide, but I did it because I'm going to use it also for other occasions. But here it says what Workplace Pride expects from the communities, but also how we want to continue the work, to professionalize also the work. And that is, then you need some guidelines, and that's important for the future also, because we learned a lot this year also from sending out invitations and not giving the people how you call that, a confirmation. Yes, and that's quite important to do. So there is going to be, Mike, you also, there's coming a template for you to progress in this, but it will come in place. Now I will guide you. I'm not going to read it out loud all, but we have now 5 communities, and that's great. And the last community that we established this year was the Trans Plus community. And as you see, we did a lot of activities, and all the communities did something during the international conference. They delivered and organized a breakout session. But you see, and there's coming up something, Purple Friday. Maybe you were harassed today with a reminder about the Purple Friday event, because we still have some in-person places. But we try to do from academia a lot of work on the academic world, but also help our members. This is these are the activities from women at Workplace Pride. And yeah, you see here from January to May, we needed to do some more community building because the former leader of the women community left Workplace Pride. So we needed new people also in the core team. But at the end of the day, we did a lot of good work. Young at Workplace Pride. Also the same, because we have to build again the community. But they started this week also in the place where we stand now on the mentorship program. And there were 140 registrations from all members. That's good. And we did the kickoff here as we speak at the same location. And yeah, there will be a Christmas event, but I have to serve the bitterballen because I'm not under 35. But anyway, some people ask me already, I'm a little bit over 35. Can I come? I say, yeah, just try. Maybe they refuse you at the door. I don't know. And then tech at the Workplace Pride. We started this year with a new concept, and that is company visits. Martijn, you are here, the leader of tech. Yeah, and that's a great new concept. No, the last visit we did was at Maersk in Rotterdam with a group of people, and next year we want to reach out a little bit more to see. And yeah, there's coming up an event in February. But also tech did a lot of work. And then what I already announced, that is the Trans Plus community. They started in the beginning of this year. So they had also to build the community and also brainstorming on the name of the community, because it is not only transgender persons that are in the board of this Trans Plus community, but also non-binary people, or everybody who not identify as a cisgender person. Is that right? Yeah. And yeah, so there was the 17th, I got a compliment here from Paul, also about the hybrid event on Trans Plus in the workplace, a talk across generations. So not only from you, but also from other people, but it was quite interesting. Now, and the coming activities for 2023, yeah, we continue to build on professionalizing the collaboration, organizing events and communication strategy, of course. And now the information on the website needs to be up to date. And then what I already announced, on the 15th of February, there will be an event, a company visit to the Green Village of TU Delft. So please put it already in your agenda. I'm very proud of all the communities and all the people who work together with us to make this happen. And that's a big applause for all the leaders, the core members, but also everybody who loves to be in a community. David.
Thanks very much, Christine. It's really heartwarming to hear how the communities are becoming more and more involved, and the structure really helps them to do that. So, of course, I think you took the clicker with you, but I'll just click away here. Now, of course, we cannot work at Workplace Pride without a good and sound financial basis. So I'd like to ask now our treasurer, Ad Bous, to come up on the stage and to walk you through a little bit where we are as an organization financially.
So good evening, everybody here. Good evening, everybody online. My name is Ad. I'm the treasury for a few years already with Workplace Pride, next to my job in ING. I want to walk you through to the financials of over the past 3 years of the foundation. to give you some comfort whether we as a foundation survive the COVID period, whether we spend your money wisely. So, next slide, please. It might be a boring presentation, but be aware it's only one slide. So I will walk you through the figures shortly. We have some income realized over the past 3 years, which was growing. And as David explained already, the numbers of members growth exploded since 2020. And that's why also the income raised quite heavily. Many of you know once when front office is growing, how is back office coping with that? Yeah, we tried to get hold of all the growing members and to give, to present it wisely here. The numbers of membership contributions, and that's quite, that's your money. That's contribution of all the members coming in. Other revenues that consist of training modules being sold, tickets for the conference, tickets for the gala, the Leiden chair, which we get a contribution of. And as you can see, we grow quite, the first year from 2020 to 21, 15 or 30%, more than 30%. And the last year we grow, or at least the forecast for this year is that we grow more than 15%. What we grow is also what we spend. And here are the most important categories of spending of the foundation. We need more staff to control and to support you as members. So that means that we need more relationship managers. Now one we have joined Robert today. You see the growth of staff expenses growing here, have the consultants, which supports all the members of our foundation. Event-related expenses, it's quite a huge number, but these are most the costs for the international conference and the cost for the Gala Awards dinner, next to some events like online events and trainings. You see the number growing, but also the expenses of the events are growing. We try to get hold of those and we try to spend it wisely, but we also, as the board, thinks that those two main events are quite important events for the members. And last but not least, the general expenses. Yeah, these are costs like housing, marketing, sales, and insurance. That gives us a net result over the past years, still a positive result. We try to spend what we get in wisely as well out. And we try to avoid at least that we have to pay corporate tax. So our net results should have a positive balance, or at least a zero balance, but it should not grow tremendously because tax is also looking at our books. We try to avoid to pay tax anyway. This is the comfort I want to give you. I want to thank Michael because he's the man behind the scenes who's taking care of all the stuff at the office. I'm very thankful to you for this. Next to that, be aware that we have also an accounting firm who takes care of the accounting system itself. So at least we have a kind of 6 eyes principle getting these figures done, which might look a little bit overdone, but it gives a kind of comfort that many more eyes are looking into the figures. Next to that, I want to mention that we don't take any risks with your money. We don't invest in cryptos. We don't invest in shares. We try to keep it as safe as possible. And hopefully you agree that we spend it wisely. Thanks for that.
Thanks very much, Ed. I think it is spent very wisely myself, and I kind of see odd in our finances like the sixth pillar of the foundation, because stability and security is very important for the work that we do. All right, well, now I'm going to go a little bit faster, hopefully not too fast, to show you some of the things that we've done this year. And there's a lot, there's a whole lot. So I'm going to overwhelm you with pictures first of all and let you digest this as I walk through it. So our events and activities, as I mentioned, is one of our very important pillars. We've done many large events which have already come up here in the discussion a little bit, such as our international conference, which was held at the passenger terminal in Amsterdam. I believe around 300 people came, really where we dug into the content of LGBTIQ plus workplace inclusion. This is one of my favorites. We worked with the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They brought, I think, 8 or 10 activists from Central and Eastern Europe and Central Asia to the Netherlands to experience the Pride Amsterdam, and we connected them with our members at this wonderful event, Stories from the Heart, so that our members who have actually colleagues sometimes in these countries can hear what it's like to be LGBTIQ+. It's a wonderful event hosted by Heineken and PwC. And of course, our gala, it's come up a couple of times, our Leadership Awards dinner. It might seem like it's a bit of a frivolous thing, but it's a very important thing as well to acknowledge those people that have done so much work over the past year. And of course, you know, our community, we love to have a good time. So it really, truly was. Other things which you may or may not be aware of, for example, we also had a walk with the Amsterdam Pride event, which is gathering even more momentum. It's the grassroots that Christine is referring to in a sense, you know, when the whole community can come out and really talk about what's important to us. Another new development, which I think is fantastic, and the relationship managers are organizing these, are member exchange sessions. Now, we've only had 2 this year, but next year we already have 6 organized. Now, these sessions are all online, so anybody around the world in any of our members' locations can take part of them. And they talk about, it's led by the relationship managers, and they talk about very concrete topics, such as how do you create a transgender policy for your workplace if you don't have it yet? And as Brian mentioned, you know, the global benchmark, we have years and vast amounts of knowledge and data and experience on this. And so I just encourage anybody who's here or who's listening that if you have the opportunity to participate in these next year, do so. And they will be on our calendar of events, of course. And Christine alluded a little bit to the mentorship program, which was launched here on Monday. I was actually here for that. It was a wonderful event because you see all these really enthusiastic young people and also older people who want to get together and work on reinforcing our community from a generational basis, and also people with more experience and less experience to exchange. And again, from across various members of Workplace Pride. So it's a great added value for our members to take part in this. So the Declaration of Amsterdam, it's sometimes I kind of pass over this, but it is important. It's been around now for more than 10 years. The Declaration of Amsterdam was put into place as a reaction to the fact that there's a Declaration of Human Rights, there's even an LGBT Global Declaration, but there's nothing actually for LGBTIQ plus workplace inclusion. So we created the Declaration of Amsterdam, again, more than 11 years ago now. And since then, more than, I think, almost 40 organizations have signed. Now, when organizations sign this document, what they're basically saying is we aspire to create workplaces where everybody can really be themselves. You know, Workplace Pride, we're not policemen, so we're not going to go after each organization and say, have you done this or not? But if you look at these various points, I don't know if you can read them all, but there's a responsibility from the employer as well as from people from our own community to work together to create something that is really better for our community. And it really benefits employers as well. These are the organizations that have signed in just this year, and we're hoping to have a whole lot more next year. I'd love to see Adyen on here actually at one point. So it's coming. There we go. Okay. So the global outreach, we haven't emphasized it so much, but as Bianca said in the opening, you know, the dynamic of what we do with LGBTI inclusion around the world is difficult. It's difficult for us, but it's even more difficult for organizations who have, like Adyen, who have activities all over the world, working in places where sometimes homosexuality is criminalized, sometimes even with the death penalty. And yet they still have to carry out their work, have a diversity and inclusion policy. So our global outreach is one of the reasons that members actually join Workplace Pride. And we hear that. I hear that in the acquisition discussions. We need to work in that space, that international space. So we continue to do these types of events, and very, very proud to say that we've done two really groundbreaking events this year. The first one was in Dubai. It was hosted by Baker McKenzie. We had a lot of support from our various members. And just to give you a bit of an indication of how groundbreaking this actually was, even though we talked about LGBT inclusion, we could not even include it in the invitation because homosexuality is criminalized in Dubai. But we still had close to 100 people at this event who really needed to talk about this topic because they had no other outlet. Huge success. The second one was just recently in September in Tokyo, and I had to thank my colleague Yuli Kim very much for making this happen. It was mainly in Japanese, and this was working with our member organizations who have activities in Japan, and there are quite a few of them, and they have employees there who are also in the workplace. And how do they deal with their orientation or their gender identity in an area, in a culture where it's sometimes difficult? So this brought everyone together. And again, thanks very much to Yuli, because she worked very closely with Japanese LGBTIQ plus civil society organizations who do wonderful work as well. But our role, Workplace Pride's role, was to bring all these various parties together. The third main party, apart from civil society and businesses, was also the diplomatic community. So we worked very closely with the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and actually even had a Dutch minister of OCW who spoke at our event. So all of this just kind of gives you a feeling that why we do these international events. We actually need to stay on the cusp, on the crest of the wave on this topic, because if we don't do it, almost no one else will work in this space like Workplace Pride. So research and knowledge sharing. This is, I think it was Christine was referring a little bit to Academia Workplace Pride, and our chair, and Brian as well, our chair is now in its 6th year. This is supported by Reed Elsevier, one of our members, and Professor von der Toorn is doing original research about LGBTIQ plus workplace inclusion. So what she does feeds into everything else that happens with her Workplace Pride. We're very proud of her work there. This is what I wanted to mention at the very beginning. You might remember when I showed you the slide of the relationship managers, there was a second bit with Free to Be Me. This is a project. It's a 5-year project that is funded by the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and it's the largest LGBTI funded project ever in the history. It's 37.5 million euros. Now we don't get all that, unfortunately, as you saw on the overview from Odd. But this project is in 14 global South countries, 2 in Southeast Asia, the Philippines and Indonesia, and the rest are in Africa or the Middle East. Workplace Pride was requested to bring our technical knowledge as a technical partner about the workplace into this project. So we're working very closely with organizations such as HEVOS, such as ILGA World, Positive Vibes based in South Africa, SOGI Campaigns, and the Global Interfaith Network as well. And what Workplace Pride most recently has done is we're creating socioeconomic roundtables to take the topic of the workplace in these countries and bring them together with our members, so that, again, where our members have activities or employees in the countries where this project is taking place, we can bring them together. This most recently, this was in Nairobi. This was last week. It was actually hosted at, this thing's hot. We was actually hosted at the Netherlands embassy in Nairobi. We'll be doing another one of these in Manila, first quarter of next year, and then 4 more in Africa. So this is a great way for our members to particularly if you have activities in these countries, to become engaged. There will also be a mentorship program here for people, you, for example, that have skills in a specific region. If you want to work with somebody from our community in the developing world, this is a great way to do it. So I'm quite, as you can tell, I'm quite excited about this because we really have the chance to work with people from our community in countries sometimes where they have no other chance. So it's a wonderful way. Supporting this, we worked with the Global Equality Fund last year, and it was finalized this year to create a civil society business toolkit. Now you might think, what's Workplace Pride doing with civil society? Again, we were requested to create this toolkit because this helps civil society organizations learn how to work with businesses, because the language is totally different. Sometimes they just don't know how to do it. So this is one of the tools that we will be using for the Free to Be Me project. Okay, again, a little bit more on research and knowledge. The beginning of this year, and actually last year as well, we worked very closely with IBM, did quite a bit of research with a university professor on a study called the Corporate Advocacy for LGBT Rights. This is, you may or may not be aware of it, but it's really a wonderful tool for any member organization who's working internationally in countries where it can be very difficult or even illegal to be LGBTIQ+. This helps organizations know how to organize themselves to be able to reach out and actually influence legislation. For example, you might remember a couple of years ago in Brunei, the Sultan basically said that gay men can now be stoned to death just because they're gay. Well, this caused a bit of a panic amongst some of our member organizations who have employees there. So behind the scenes, we found a way to work together. I mean, we didn't do it all, but we worked together with these organizations to see what could they do for their employees in an environment that's changed totally. So this study, we realized that there's something to be had here. There's something that could be used for our members. And so it's a very good study that really tells you, for example, if you're going to reach out as a company, if you're going to try to influence legislation, first of all, make sure your public affairs department, your top leadership, your communications department are all aligned before you do that. And it might seem very obvious, but this is it's a great toolkit, as it were. The other one here, the LGBT plus workplace monitor, again, over the years, we've realized that there's a lot of data available from very good sources, such as ILGA Europe, on LGBTI inclusion, I mean, specifically on the workplace, such as such as ILGA Europe, such as the Fundamental Rights Agency, which is part of the European Union. Now, all this data is available, but it's not all in one place. So together with Deloitte, the Deloitte Impact Foundation, we've been working a year on this now, and it was just launched in October. The LGBT Workplace Monitor is a place, it's a website where you can go and actually compare the situation amongst European countries on how they look at the LGBTIQ plus workplace topic. So for example, you can bring up the Czech Republic and Portugal and compare how do they, what's the situation for transgender legal topics or something like this. It's full of data, a lot of data. So it's meant as a tool for our community. It's meant as a tool for leaders when they're deciding where to do their business, how to change their D&I policies, etc. It's complicated, but it's very, very good. And we're going to continue. Right now, it's only about Europe. But as more data becomes available, we're going to roll this out globally, hopefully, that it becomes a good tool for everyone to use. All right, that's enough of looking back at 2022. Let's look a little bit for the future for 2023. I can hardly believe it's already almost 2023. Okay, so what is Workplace Pride going to be doing? You've heard it through a number of my colleagues speaking as well as myself that our international outreach is incredibly important for what we do. Member organizations find this important, the community finds it as well, and so we will continue and reinforce our international outreach. I do want to point out, though, we will continue also to leverage the character of our Dutch roots.
We were founded in this country. We're going to stay in this country. We love being in this country. And so we'll continue having local events, but we also want to be able to include our members who are not in this country and who would, it would help them to benefit. And this is mainly possible, of course, because of the online with Zoom or whatever. So we will continue to do this as much as possible. It's a bit more philosophical, but social engagement by employers has really become front and center for pretty much everybody that we speak to anymore. And this is a difference than, for example, 5 or 10 years ago when the business case was much more important. How we deal with our community. When I say we, I mean, how do organizations, how do companies interact with our community? We recognize within Workplace Pride that this is very important. And so, in order to, well, actually the entire discussion around rainbow washing, you might know, has become so much more important now for people to understand, and we're aware of this. So we want to work with our members to, to protect them, that there can be accused of rainbow washing, but also to make sure that when they're going to be working with Workplace Pride, that there's a framework to do that. So for 2023, we are putting into place a new members guideline for this. Now, in a nutshell, what this means is if you're going to become a member of Workplace Pride, it's no longer just a question of signing up and paying. There are some criteria that you need to meet. Now, for existing members, it's not an issue. You're already there, basically. But for new members, for example, we want to make sure that they have the intention, at least, to consider creating an employee resource group, an LGBT employee resource group. We want to make sure that they have a policy that people from our community can actually refer to. We want to make sure that there's leadership buy-in or some form of support. So the relationship managers will be the front line for this. They will help new member organizations interpret how this works, as well as old ones. And these are going to become available, the members guidelines. But we found it important to make sure that our community understands also that Workplace Pride is there for the community first, and we do this with our member organizations. Yeah, we've grown so quickly in the past couple of years, as you've seen now a couple of times, that I have to confess that our communications have faltered a little bit. Sometimes we're very conscious of not overwhelming our members with too many invitations. And we know that we're not maybe telling our story as well or as frequently as we should be. That will be changing in 2023. We're going to be hiring a marketing communications person. It's our top priority for the beginning of the year. And all of this is hopefully going to benefit our members and the community by making it clearer on what we do. And as you can see, there's a whole lot of what we do. So we want to make sure that that story is easy to tell. For the membership benefits, even though inflation has gone up a lot this year, and we're not sure where it's going to go, membership benefit, the prices for our members will not go up in 2023. Now, I'm not saying they might go up in 2024 or not, but they will not go up. We want to make sure that when we do raise our prices for members, that everyone is well informed, well ahead of time for that. That will mean, though, some changes for the benefits that we currently give. For example, for the past 2 years, we've given gala tickets for our members. That was because of the pandemic. We wanted to, give them something back, but that unfortunately is going to have to stop for next year for members. So only foundation partners and leaders will actually get tickets, free tickets for the gala. Okay, main events. Some of these you'll probably already recognize: the Global Benchmark, the International Conference. Next year it's going to be earlier than what we normally do it, at the end of May. We've learned over the years that not just because of vacations, but people are just much more focused before the summer starts. And also in most other countries around the world, June is Pride Month. And so it was spread too thin. So we're looking at around the 26th of May for our international conference. We're actually going to try to target Utrecht this time as opposed to Amsterdam. We will still have our Pride Walk. We'll still have our Stories from our Heart, and also our Leadership Awards Gala. So these things remain the same. However, there are some new ones. As I mentioned, we have, I hope you can see this, we have our members exchange meetings. These dates are actually set, and we'll make this presentation available to everybody, so don't worry about that. But these dates are actually set for our member exchanges, and also for the Global Leaders Council, that's ongoing, and a number of webinars, etc. There's quite a bit here, so I'll go ahead and put it all up so you can have a look at it. Christine has already mentioned a number of events. We're looking at an event, an international event in Athens. We've had a request from the Dutch embassy there to do an event. And I didn't want to put it up here, but there's actually a conversation going on about doing an event in the Caribbean as well, where homosexuality is really a problem still. And that would be working with our various members there, together with the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And finally, the Free to Be Me project that I mentioned as well is ongoing. The Manila one and several others here, actually it's listed, Rwanda, Ghana, Zimbabwe, and Indonesia will be taking place next year. Now, my last slide, though, I say is a bit of a surprise. I'm watching the time here as well, because you're probably all familiar that Amsterdam has been awarded the 2026 World Pride. Well, we're all quite excited about it. Workplace Pride was actually involved in the bidding process. So we put a letter forward with a proposal about what we would be doing. And our proposal is basically to do a conference, a socioeconomic, LGBTQ plus socioeconomic symposium. Now, this is in the very early stage. We actually haven't done anything more on this other than working on the bid process. However, it's a huge opportunity for our foundation to bring together many different types of civil society organizations together with our members from a partnering and sponsoring standpoint, working with academia, governments, intergovernmental agencies such as the United Nations Development Funds, etc. And it's particularly important, I feel, or heartwarming in a sense, because it's 30 years since the Gay Pride in 1996. And I have to say, I have to stop a moment. That's when I started my activism, because it was so good to feel everyone together and see everyone walking hand in hand in a city where, you know, you wouldn't necessarily see it before. It will be 25 years after marriage equality in this country, and it will be the 20th anniversary of Workplace Pride. So it will be a big event that we need to start planning for. It's 3 years in the future, but we want to involve our members as much as possible. So please put that in your mind as something to look forward to. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. So thank you very much for your attention, first of all. Still see we have 12 people left online. So we're first of all going to open it up for Q&A if there are any questions. And we're going to go first of all to the people online with Elise there in the corner.
Hello, I'm going to give the people online a few minutes to type in any questions they have, because we don't have any questions there yet. So we'll give them a minute to get their thoughts together. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for David or anyone else at Workplace Pride?
Wait for the mic, she's coming so we can hear you online as well.
Hi, I just want to ask, with the trainings that are available now, etc., is there some plan to receive some kind of newsletter for the members? What we are missing right now is that we would like to communicate what is happening and kind of something what we could share. And we have very little material to work with. So if there would be a possibility from your end, maybe for next year or upcoming years, provide some monthly, quarterly, whatever would be, newsletter on what has happened, as you mentioned in the beginning, in the US and Russia and etc. Something like this would be great. Is it in the plan or is it considerable?
Absolutely in the plan. That will be one of the main tasks of our new communications manager. But even before that person comes on board, we're going to start this because we're aware of this. And I have to actually apologize to a degree that we haven't. We used to have it in the past, but for various reasons, it just kind of fell by the wayside. But we will definitely put, first of all, a very simple thing, and partly it's because there's so many things going on right now. We know that our members need just a list. I mean, of course, there's the website, but sometimes the website can be a bit difficult to navigate. That will also be updated in 2023, so you can find it immediately what you need. We're going through this process. We've actually already had some focus groups to update that element, but I assure you, I promise you, that we will have a newsletter. Don't know if it'll be quarterly or monthly. It depends a lot on the volume of information we have, but we will have it and it will be easy to read.
First of all, thank you so much for presenting an amazing work. I have a question regarding the learning and development program and also on the regionality of that. I can imagine that, for example, inclusive language is very different depending on the legislations. So how do you take that in account while drafting your learning and development program?
I'm going to give that to Yuli.
So the question was what factors did I take in to develop that learning and development program?
Yeah, and
to pick a theme?
Yeah,
Or-
and is there localizations? So do we know, for example, what we should do best when we would go to, for example, Malaysia or Dubai, or like, are there learning and developments also based on country?
I think simplistic answer would be yes. Well, the deck is standardized for each module. Maybe I should go back and then show. So this is a program overview. And obviously, when we talk about the world of LGBTIQ plus people here versus Japan, it's different. And here versus China, even APAC, Asia, Korea, Japan, and Indonesia, all different parts of the countries have different sort of legal situation, but also culture. But often the participants are quite international, even if the organization based here, but I often have participants from 10, 15 different countries. So in that sense, the language is a little bit maybe European centric, but when I ask the participants, I'm from Japan or different places, and I give relevant examples to those countries. Because I don't assume, my assumption is not all the even office culture is different, even within the same organization. So I conduct a pre-interview with the person who's in charge of the session, and I ask the person, what is the problem? And the conversation starts from there. And often the person's like, well, I don't know, I thought I can take this credit, so I contacted you, but okay, let me do the stakeholder interviews. So the person goes back to their stakeholders, what is the main challenge in our organization? And then they share that with me, and I take that into account when I navigate the conversation. So the deck is standardized, but my approach is quite customized to their needs. So sometimes it could be cultural, nationality based or language, but sometimes sort of universal, even though if they're in different places, but they experience similar challenge, then I take that into consideration. I hope that answers your question.
No, yeah, I think it did. Thank you
So inclusive language, for example, all the modules are delivered in English, but we also deliver in Dutch as well, because I think some organizations like KPN and other organizations are very much based here, and sort of they have this particular culture to the Dutch audience, then we take that into consideration and then bring the relevant examples. So one of the most popular modules that I've taken this year and last year is module 1 and module 3. And they're all kind of customized into whether international approach or Dutch approach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Any other questions? Yeah.
We do have one online question, and this is coming from Martin. He says, I was wondering, for the international partnerships, next to leveraging the employees of members internationally, why not also try to find other companies that are maybe not based in the Netherlands, such as government institutions in other countries than the Netherlands?
It's a good question. Actually, we're already doing that with the huge number of companies that we've added as members just recently. I think in Scandinavia, we now have 10, something
like 10 companies who are based in the Nordic region. And we have one lined up from Japan, hopefully next year as well. So it's always a question of the dynamic of how you make something that's, I think Yuli was a little bit alluding to it as well, on how you make it relevant for an organization that is based in another country with another culture. But we're including them as much as we can. And again, as a reminder, when we do an international event, we always, where it's possible, we always work with local civil society organizations to make sure that we get the tone right. Now in Dubai, it wasn't possible because civil society organizations aren't allowed in the country, but everywhere else it is. So we're doing that to a great degree, but it's good to have that question as a reminder to do even more. Any other questions? No, and no more online? Uh-oh, one more. I know the bitter balls are getting cold, so we've got to get over there quickly.
I'm sorry, whenever it's too quiet, I just can't hold myself. What we are struggling with a lot is basically bringing new allies on board within the company and kind of growing the community. And I would just be curious if anybody else has maybe a similar issue, bringing more allies on board. But what would be my question/ask towards you is, do we have maybe some guidelines how to bring more allies, and even going further, how to communicate LGBTQI topics towards people who are on the opposite side?
On the opposing side being?
Being anti-LGBTQI focused. So
Yeah.
maybe how to handle, let's say, how to bring more allies. So basically, let's say, bring neutral people to the allyship, and going even further, how to communicate or how to help people who are anti-LGBTQI focused to get more understanding, or basically how to lead these difficult conversations.
How to
Thank you.
bridge that gap. Yeah, I get you. For the first part of the question, a lot of our member organizations already have very developed ally programs. I'm thinking about Accenture. And we would love to actually put you together with them to see, you're Cisco, to see how that you can actually learn from each other. And of course, your RM can do that. It is always different in each company, of course, in each organization, but usually you need to be able to demonstrate to your colleagues that by being an ally, you can actually achieve a lot more sometimes than people from the community, because it's not threatening. You know, people who are not part of the community might not want to offend somebody, but if they hear it from another person, another ally, it's a little bit easier perhaps to hear that message. So connecting with another member is probably the most efficient way to go about that, I would think. I think Brian wants to add something. Here she comes with the mic. Bitter balls are getting cold, but okay.
And just a quick one to that. We talked about the member exchange events. We're going to be doing more of them next year. And one of the topics that we identified was how to deal with the resistance that you talked about, how to deal with those on the other side, because it comes up very often. We always hear incidents. Oh, we did a great event. We felt positive about it. And one troll came online and said something, and the balloon burst. Do we ignore? What do we do? So I don't know that we have an answer to that. I think, but there's a lot of experience among our members that can be shared. So one of the events that we will try to do early in 2023 is to talk about that, to do a sharing directly online in that low threshold member exchange session.
Yeah, another point that I wanted to add to is that when we talk about LGBTIQ plus inclusion, non-LGBTIQ plus people think it's our problem. It's their problem. But we need to connect that bridge by using like a word like psychological safety. And women respond quite like, oh, psychological safety. Because everybody should feel safe at work, but not everybody feels safe at work. And then that's not just LGBTIQ plus people, sometimes women or people with different abilities. So people of color. So find a common ground, bring them on board, and find allies within. And then number 1 becomes 2 and 3 and 5 and 10. It grows. Sometimes it takes time, but you can find allies from different ERG groups and find common ground, and maybe have a joint session and draw more interest and attention from your colleagues.
Thanks, Julie. Very good advice. I mean, it is complex, but that's what Workplace Pride is here for. We're here to help out and help our members navigate through this very complex environment that we're working in. Any final questions? Because I really want a bit of ball. No? Alan, I want to give the floor to you.
Yes, him again. I'm the one between you, the bitballen, and the drinks. But I have a little Oprah moment, so I'll make it worth it. Don't worry. We don't want to make you walk out the building